After the controversy of last week's peanut butter and onion sandwich recipe, I thought this week I'll cook something that almost everyone will want to eat. So this week in the Vintage Kitchen, I'll be showing you how to make black cap pudding.
A boy was walking his bumblebee, he tied it to a string. The sky was lit up with violet light, a bird began to sing a song of sixpence.
You'll need 4 eggs, self-raising flour, and there's a reason that I'm not going to give you the amount of self-raising flour, and I'll go into that later on when I show you how to make the pudding. Milk, I'm using lactose-free milk, but you can use any milk. 2 tablespoons of sugar. Now that's a standard 15ml tablespoon, so if you're using an Australian 20ml tablespoon, that's 1.5 tablespoons of sugar. You'll need currants, somewhere around 1/4 to 1/2 cup. It depends on the bowl that you're going to cook your pudding in. 1 to 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract or vanilla essence. Butter or margarine just to grease your pudding tin or bowl. And to cook your pudding in, you'll need either a pudding tin like this one or a bowl. If you're using a bowl, make sure that you have a cloth to put over the top. Make it damp and sprinkle it with flour, and then when you put your pudding in the bowl, tie this cloth over the top, and that will stop any water getting into your pudding. I can hear everybody saying, wait, there's not enough sugar in this pudding, there needs to be more sugar. Well, you don't put it in the pudding, you put it over the top. After the pudding's cooked, you can put on absolutely any sauce you like. I'm using golden syrup to cover my pudding today. Black cap pudding is one of the easiest puddings that you can make. Start by taking your pudding tin or bowl and grease it with some margarine or some butter and pour in some currants. You could use sultanas or anything like that if you want. Now the amount depends on the size of your pudding bowl. You want about 1/2 inch of fruit in the bottom of the bowl. So I've probably used about 1/2 cup there. Now the next step is to make the pudding batter. Whisk up your eggs, just enough to mix them all up. Add the sugar. And now here comes the secret of how much flour to use. You want to add just enough that it makes a very thick batter. So put in a little bit at a time. Don't put in any more flour until this is mixed in, because you might add too much if you do that. That is a very bad habit that I have. Don't worry about any lumps, we'll sort those out later. So that obviously needs a lot more flour. When I say thick batter, I mean like a cake batter too, not like something that you would put on fish and chips, that sort of thing. That would be too thin. Okay, so that's good. I'd say that was about 1.5 cups of flour if you really want measurements. Now a batter this thick would make a rather unattractive and dry pudding. So now we need to put a little bit of moisture in, and when I'm going to add the milk. Just a tiny bit at a time. You want to add enough that the consistency is like a thick cream. Not a whipping cream that artificially thickens stuff, but a natural cream. Add the vanilla at this stage as well. So I'm going to go ahead and keep adding milk until it's right, and then I'll show you how it looks. There we go, I've added enough milk. You can see that it's quite thick. It's like the consistency of a thick cream. Now, the reason I didn't give you a specific amount of flour and milk to use is that the size of your eggs are going to make a big difference as to how much you need. And if you learn a recipe by what the batter should look like, then you'll be able to adjust the amounts and know that you're getting it right every time. Now take your pudding bowl with the sultanas or currants, whatever you've used in it, and pour the batter straight on top. I found this little tin at an op shop. You can still buy these, but new ones are quite large. They do about 10 people. A pudding for about 10 people. So I quite often use this little one that I found in an op shop, charity shop, whatever you call them where you live. Now my pudding bowl is a little bit large for this amount of mix, but that doesn't really matter. It's going to rise. But if you have a smaller bowl than mine, you want to leave at least an inch at the top for it to rise. And it may rise more than that, so be aware of that when you take the lid off. Now this is ready to cook, so I'm going to pop the lid on. If you have a pudding tin like this one that has a knob on the top, don't use that to pick it up because the lid might pop off. Always pick it up from the sides. Now this is ready to cook. Now pop your pudding tin or bowl into a saucepan. I could use one that's a bit bigger than this, but this is the biggest one I have, so that's what I'll be using. And around the edge, take your kettle, boil some water, and carefully pour in enough water to go about halfway up the side of your tin. Try not to pour it on the top if you can help it. Okay, that's about halfway up. So now I'm going to pop the lid on. This is obviously the lid for a much larger saucepan that I would be using if I still had the saucepan, but I don't. So pop the lid on and put that on the stove to boil for 1 hour. You want to check every 15 minutes or so to make sure that it hasn't boiled dry. And if the water is getting a bit low, boil your kettle and put some more water in and keep cooking. If it does boil dry, take it off the stove immediately and let the whole thing cool down completely before you take the lid off the pudding tin. Or you may have an accidentally exploding pudding, and you don't want that. Okay, so I'm going to put this on the stove, boil for 1 hour, and then I'll show you what it looks like. Well, our weather has gone completely mental. I hope you can still hear me above the thunder and lightning and things. Here's my pudding straight out of the cooker. So now I'm going to tip it out. To do that, put a plate over the top and very carefully, because this is very hot, tip it up the right way or upside down and cross your fingers. Yay, it's come out. Whoa. There you can see his little black cap. Now while this is still hot, pour over your sauce if you want it to soak in. I'm just pouring on some golden syrup here. You can see my pudding is listing to one side. Now I'm going to cut a slice because I want some now, even if it is only 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I'm just going to have a taste so that you can all be jealous that I've got some and you haven't. That is so good. This would go really well with an orange sauce as well. Take equal parts sugar and orange juice, bring it to the boil and then pour it over the top. That would be fantastic. If you enjoyed this recipe and you can still hear me, please leave a comment, subscribe or share it with your friends.
Hey cat with a fiddle, could you play?